Male self-loathing is causing mental illness in men. You really see it in the trans community. Many trans women are guys not transing because they're gender dysphoric, but because they hate being male. They hate men. Now, this particular YouTuber, I don't know how to say her name. I'm going to call her Ceicocat. She's living proof of this. Now, listen to her story.
The way my transition was a construct I devised in order to escape pain. My initial feelings were, I don't know if I want to be a girl, but I don't want to be a boy.
Thanks for admitting that, Ceicocat. Your initial feelings weren't that I want to be a girl. I just don't want to be a boy. So you hate guys and you're full of self-loathing for being one, right?
I just want to be pretty. Honestly, I still don't know if I'm a girl. I don't know what it means to be a girl. I've gone in and out of the labels of trans woman, trans feminine, non-binary, lesbian, bi, pan, and none of that matters that much to me now. None of that can ever describe the nuances of existing as a person.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to you because you're just not a guy. That's what's important. You're not one of us hated males. Though I have to admit, you still are, because you still have all the self-loathing involved.
Beyond language. I don't fault anyone for finding utility or comfort in identity terminology. That's not what I'm saying. I just feel this sick feeling when the weight of assumption that comes with each label touches my skin. Boy, young man, woman, trans, gay, non-binary, deviant, bi, pan, scared, lost child, these are all...
This is all nonsense, what she's saying here. The labels are used for things that actually exist. You're a guy, and you're labeled as a guy, and you hate being a guy. So get at the beginning, and you'll see exactly Ceicocat admitting this.
The male gender is broken.
If the male gender is broken, it always has been broken. It has always been this way for guys.
Let's face it, if you present as male, there's exactly one personality that will earn you social approval. Chad.
And she's using incel terminology, right? So she was a guy who just couldn't get validation from women. Ceicocat, that's all incel is. Guy who just can't get validation from women, right?
Assertive, dominant, successful. Nobody will be impressed by a male that is meek, submissive, and struggling.
Dominant means he dominates other men, by the way. That's what it means.
Such males are not considered gender trailblazers. They're just derided as incel neats. Nobody...
Gender trailblazer? What you mean is they gain status. You're not the type of guy who gains status.
is offering an actual solution to this. Tradcons tell you to just man up. TERFs tell you to just abolish gender.
That's a lie, of course, as you know. TERFs don't abolish gender. They demand gender norms. They hate men. They don't want men escaping. That's why TERFs are against you transitioning into a girl.
Liberals deny this reality altogether. By embracing girl mode, you actually become free to be your authentic self without shame. Society at large...
Well, you don't really become your actual self. You've discarded your actual self, your male self, to put on the female mask, so you'll be socially accepted.
Requires men to keep grinding and struggling to keep the lights on. So obviously no serious and respectable person will encourage you to just drop down the pink vortex.
So you're admitting that men are the ones that keep society going. We're the servants. And so people don't want men to get rid of, escape their servitude. Right.
But it's possibly the only thing that will actually help you if you're stuck being a shitty male with no prospects.
So what do you mean by shitty male? And those prospects, right? In other words, one who doesn't live up to women's desires, right? They're the ones who decide who is a shitty male or not. And no prospect means you don't have status to bribe a woman into your life. That's what you mean, right?
This is an excerpt from a guide written for incels that want to transition into womanhood I found about a year ago, and I can't stop thinking.
Yeah, well, that's all very nice. Exactly. Guys are escaping or trying to escape the condition, the male condition that they find themselves in. And you did too, Ceicocat. But what you're not admitting it to yourself is that you hate men. That's where all your self-loathing comes from. You hate men. You don't want to be one. It's not just that you don't want that you want to escape the abuse that men get. You actually hate other men. That's why. No, Ceicocat brings up this disgusting manga that I'm not even going to bother talking about. Other than that, this is disgusting manga. It was made by a self-loathing man, and the idea was this guy wakes up in the body of the woman he's obsessed over, and instead of having the great life he really would have had, the writer gives him all these additional problems that wouldn't really exist. All right. So we're going to bypass that horse shit. Now, I like what she's showing here, right? Some guy saying, fuck you to the guy who said I'd end up alone, the guy without a girlfriend, because I am the girlfriend now, right? Some guy crossed over and now he gains social acceptance simply by being female, right? But she's going to bash on these guys, well, because they're other guys, right? She's going to call them incels.
Alienated from society can develop a sort of artificial dysphoria and transition not as a way to metaphysically align your body with your true sense of self, but as a somewhat intentional strategy to stop pain and improve your life prospects.
Thank you for admitting that. See, I've said that in earlier videos, and this is proof of it. It's not because you have gender dysphoria. It's because these guys want to get out. They want to get out of the slave situation that they're in, of being hated by other people.
Isao Mari perceived his life to be so incredibly painful that he idealized the idea of turning into Mari. Incel culture deeply, painfully covets femininity.
They don't covet femininity per se. What you covet is the easy lifestyle that women have, the acceptance from other people. That is the number one motivation. You covet the acceptance of other people, but specifically the acceptance of other women. Because you yourself admit in your own story that you didn't even like being with other guys, right? You weren't interested in guy friends.
Femininity. There's the obvious sexual and romantic aspiration aspect, but the way that they romanticize and idealize these supposedly easy and charmed lives of women are often
not supposedly easy and charmed life. They are easy and charmed life. Women gain social acceptance by dint of being female. And you know that. That's why you transitioned. See, this is what makes Ceicocat a hostile person. He doesn't want to admit that women have an easy life. If they didn't, then men wouldn't be trying to transition for the reasons that you transitioned.
Faced with a level of resentment adjacent to jealousy. I'm trying to remain as sympathetic and open as possible, but I do.
You aren't sympathetic to other men. You hate other men. That's why you're trying to be sympathetic, even though you were in the exact same situation. And these guys have a perfectly good reason to feel resentment. By dint of just being born male, they have to perpetually work to gain acceptance by other people, and the girls don't. So, I mean, that's life is unfair. What can I say, right? That's reason to be resentful.
Do have to be clear here. The rhetoric they use to try and understand women is ghoulish and bizarre. A series
really,
of cruel
and hybristophilia and hypergamy. I mean, these are real aspects of women. They're just facts. So how are they ghoulish?
Strange assumptions wearing an unconvincing costume of scientific objectivity, the degree to which they have to collectively convince themselves that women are a rudimentary set of Chad-seeking algorithms is pretty astonishing.
But you're going to admit that women weren't interested in you, dude. Ceicocat, you admitted that women didn't like you as an effeminate man. So why are you now saying that these guys are wrong? Why are you spitting on them saying the truth? Right? Because you're male hostile. This is where all your self-loathing comes from.
No one is denying that we as a collective society treat girls different than boys and women different than men.
Well, they do, right? You wouldn't have the issues that you do if that wasn't the case. So why are you lying now? You're a feminist, aren't you, Ceicocat? And so everything you say, and I should say everything you say is a lie, but you are a lie supporter, right?
Many other trans women, my life has become harder in many ways, but also much, much easier in other ways. I'm certainly treated more delicately. I am able to openly express emotion and not be judged.
There you go. You gain acceptance. You're allowed to emote and express yourself. That's right. This is why you transitioned.
As harshly. People smile at me more and are generally more friendly, but there's an inherent trade-off.
No, there isn't a trade-off, dude. There isn't a trade-off. Because if there was actually trade-off, you wouldn't be in the position you're in.
Sometimes taken less seriously in professional settings, and a lot of that
This is a bold-faced lie because women get men fired from their jobs constantly just by making up stories. People listen to women. So this is a bold-faced lie from a feminist, right? A feminist who hates men and he's full of self-loathing.
friendliness is pretense for sexual pursuit. Despite these
See, this is the other thing too, right? So because you hate men, you're a straight man, you don't want to be hit on by men, right? And men hitting on women is bad because, well, it just is, right? Men trying to become intimate with women the way you want to is bad, right? So this guy's filled with self-loathing. Okay, let's get into his personal story or her personal story. Don't worry, this is overly long. I won't bog you down. I'll only get to the important parts.
When I was growing up, I didn't have the language for the pain I was experiencing. I was a pretty cute kid when I was little. My mom kept my hair long and she tells me I got mistaken for a girl a lot. We lived
Yeah, she kept it long because mothers do that. They like emasculating their little boys. That's true.
sort of out in the middle of the forests of Indiana, and the only people I saw pretty much for the entire first 4 years of my life were my mom, our neighbors, and then my baby sister when she was born.
No father, right? So this is a single mother. Right. Exactly. You know something, everyone? Ceicocat doesn't mention her father whatsoever because she's unconcerned with him. Did he die? I doubt it. I suspect your mother booted him out of the family unit and he's probably was paying child support. And you don't give a shit about him because he's male.
We moved to Texas after that, and I started school. I have this one memory from the first day of kindergarten. I was really nervous, and I didn't know how to approach any of these other kids who had somehow already started talking to one another. But then a girl approached me. We started talking, and I felt this sense of relief. Maybe I could do this. Maybe talking with other kids was easy. At some point, though, I don't remember what it was, but something clicked in her mind, and she said, "Oh, you're a boy?" And then left to talk with other girls.
You see that, Ceicocat? Girls don't like boys. They prefer their own company. And what's your issue? You don't like guys either. That's why you didn't bother trying to talk to those guys, right? Now, notice you have zero resentment about being rejected by girls, right? You internalize that that rejection because you worship the opposite sex, of course. They could never be blamed for their actions. So this is something else.
Didn't fit into that, the more other boys separated from me. Alienation became bullying. I just wanted to play video games and read books, but even outside of school, every adult man in my life pushed me towards athletic activity and tried to instill within me the value of dominating someone else through competitive power. I think
You mean winning, victory, right? So you're exposing yourself again. You're expressing the idea of competing with other guys is domination, right? Exactly. But your father's not, this is your uncle. What happened to your dad? Did he die? You didn't say he died, right? Exactly. So you don't give a shit that he's not in your life. And what are the guys doing? They're trying to teach you how to be a good servant. That's what all this competition means, is compete with other men and then get validated by the girls. You want to be validated by the opposite sex, but you can't compete with other guys, right? So that's the issue here. I'm against this too. I think men should drop this idea of teaching their sons to be good servants. But you lack the awareness to even come to that conclusion, right?
but I relate deeply to the struggle of social isolation and an essential feeling of being unwanted. I know
That's right. You were unwanted by both genders. That's true. Girls don't like guys any more than you do, so they don't want to be around you.
I never felt like I could perform masculinity correctly, and isn't that exactly what's at the heart of being an incel?
Uh, no. Incel is that women simply deselect men, right? That's all it is anyway, right? Officially. Just you couldn't compete with the other guys for female validation, right? So why beat yourself up over that, right?
I could never measure up to other men physically. I was small and weak comparatively. I never understood how to socially embody masculinity either. Every time I tried to date
What are you talking about? Embody. You're a guy. What you're going through is the male experience. Now, this is interesting about the girlfriend because she's going to admit she's going to be the one to reject you. Okay, let's get back here again.
like I could perform masculinity correctly, and isn't that exactly what's at the heart of being an incel? I could never measure up to other men physically. I was small and weak comparatively. I never understood how to socially embody masculinity either. Every time I tried to date a girl, I was so passive it would end before it started.
Well, there you go, right? Like she wasn't interested in you as a person. Ceicocat, was she? Right? I mean, this is the heart of it, right? You like girls, you want to be around girls, but they're not interested in you as a person. So you have to conform to the masculine standards that they demand. The girls are the ones, Ceicocat, that decide what is and isn't masculine, and what is good and what is bad. So you're being rejected, right? So do you have any resentment over being rejected? No, you jump on the bandwagon and say that it's good, right? It's good that I've gotten out of this male body who I hate so much.
There was something so deeply wrong inside of me, some invisible wall that separated me from the perceived success my male peers had achieved. The term
But your male peers didn't really achieve anything. The girls they don't see them as human beings either.
Failed male is sometimes used by former incels who have transitioned to describe themselves. I totally relate to it. But I knew I couldn't be a girl either. I looked more manly every day.
That's right. You couldn't be a girl either, right? This guy is going to get rejected more so again.
Things came to a head in one phone call. I was really close friends with this one girl who was going through a lot.
No, you weren't friends with her. You were her emotional tampon, dude.
She would call me to vent sometimes, and I would listen, but not really offer much more than, "That sucks," or,
You wouldn't offer her because you're just an emotional tampon. She just wants you to cry on. That's it. You're being used.
"I'm so sorry this is happening." One day when I was on the phone with her, after giving her one of those template answers, she responded, "What's wrong with you? Is that really all you can say? It feels like I'm talking to a robot. Don't you have anything else to say besides what you always do?"
In other words, you didn't validate her emotions, right? She's calling you to cry on your shoulder, and you did a terrible job.
I share so much of myself with you, and I feel like I don't even know you. 3 years of being your
3 years of being your friend. She was never your friend. She used you for 3 years. She doesn't want you to open up, dude. She just wanted you to validate her emotions properly. And you did a bad job. You were a bad servant, Ceicocat.
friend, and I have no idea who you are. I couldn't answer. I was stuck. I wanted to tell her about myself, but I was terrified of revealing a part of me I viewed as sick and degenerate.
You didn't tell her anything because you know that if guys open up to girls, that turns the girls off. I mean, you admitted when you dated this other girl earlier, right? You would get together and they wouldn't last.
You have to understand, this was back in the mid-2000s before trans people had any mainstream acceptance. And I was in Texas. For a long time, I didn't even know you could transition. The next day, I texted her and said, "I have to tell you something in person." It was after school, my hands were sweaty and shaking, and I couldn't look her in the eye, but I managed to tell her that I liked cross-dressing and that I wished I could look pretty all the time. And she accepted me. The first thing she said was, "This makes so much sense now."
Yeah, but she really still doesn't care about you, dude. She doesn't know anything about you or care about you. She was so-called friends with you for 3 years, and she was happy for you to give these simple answers when she wanted to cry on your shoulder. She didn't want to know you.
That was the first time I felt like there was any way forward. I stayed pretty small and not super.
Yeah, okay. He goes on about his transition. It's very obvious, guys. I just want to keep hammering home this guy hates other guys. That's where his self-loathing comes from. That's why he transitioned to escape the male identity. And his whole life story is about gaining female validation.
Issues. As I learned more and more, I hit a wall. The way trans people were described in most of these books, they all had this deeply solidified sense that their soul was female. As children, they wore their mom's high heels, they outright said that they were girls to their family. Even with the amount of dysphoria I was going through, I didn't have any such certainty. I knew
You didn't have dysphoria, dude. You had hatred of your body. You had hatred of other men, and you didn't want to be one.
I was in pain, but it was complicated by this feeling that I wasn't really trans, that I was tricking myself into trying to legitimize something that was just a fetish. I loved women's bodies. I knew I desired them and also wanted to live as one, but I couldn't imagine myself within one. There was something so pleasing about the thought, something so deeply indulgent that it felt perverse. As I read more and more,
You hear the self-loathing?
I took in second wave feminist ideology and began to internalize it.
That's really helpful, Ceicocat. Join a hate movement that hates men for being men. That will certainly help your state of mind. But of course, since you hate other men, it makes sense. You probably gained some kind of boost from it, right? You're in amongst your kind. It's just that they hate your guts too.
What if I was just a socially disaffected male whose desire to control women was distorted inwardly? What if I was
So you transforming is an effort to control women. How? Right? This is more internalized self-hatred and self-loathing, right? Again, you hate other men to start with. And so you adopted this man-hating propaganda willingly. You're a man-hater, Ceicocat.
appropriating women's bodies by wanting to become one? My school offered psychological.
So this is a very important part. This is female worship. Female worship leads to mental dysfunction. This man sees the female body as divine, and for him to become one is essentially the same as a mortal climbing Mount Olympus. He's walking on hallowed ground. He doesn't belong there. That's what's going on here.
Counseling as part of its subsidized university healthcare.
Oh, by the way, he's also going to show support what I say about counseling. Counseling is bullshit for men.
When the pain grew unbearable, I sought out a therapist there. I attended group sessions where I would go over my desire to be feminine, my distress at the thought of aging into an older man, the pain at trying to wear makeup and just looking like a man and unpracticed.
Again, see, this isn't about him wanting to be a woman. This is about him hating being a guy.
This drag and my complicated uncertainty. After a few months of these sessions, the counselor asked if I had considered that I was simply a crossdresser and that I was overthinking things. Oh, I guess that's it, I thought.
There you go. So it was a female counselor they showed, right? And it was 3 months of this and 3 months of your time wasted, right? So therapy is useless. Thank you. Of course, you did finally find a therapist that told you what you wanted to hear, right? And then you transitioned, and now you feel better about yourself, right?
Then, a year later, I returned to counseling. I had one-on-one sessions with a new therapist this time. After weeks of explaining again what I was going through, the intense oscillation between thoughts of, I can just suck it up and be a straight man and have a family, and
Thank God you didn't have a family. Can you imagine this guy having children?
I think I'm dying. I think I'll die if I don't transition. My therapist asked one simple question. Well, does it really matter if you're a girl or not? It sounds like you're in pain, real pain, and you know what you can do to make it go away. That's right. It didn't matter.
This is a eureka moment, right? This isn't about dysphoria. This guy is in absolute pain of being a guy. He hates other men and he doesn't want to be one. And so he starts to transition, right? And then he becomes happy, right?
Everything melted away. So what if I was a degenerate pervert? The fact that this pain was real.
Oh, and being a guy makes you a degenerate pervert, right?
And not going away meant that transitioning was the correct path. I signed up for the waitlist for HRT at a nearby informed consent clinic, and a few months later, in December of 2011, I began taking the medicine that saved my life.
And as you see, he admitted that, hey, it wasn't about him becoming a girl. It's about him not wanting to be a boy, right?
I don't know if I want to be a girl, but I don't want to be a boy.
There you go. So this world is filled with people like Ceicocat here. Guys who are deeply hateful of the male's gender. it leads to self-loathing, and that leads to mental health issues, right? And their answer to that is to run away, become women, or at least try to, and then join the man-hating, feminist group, and then start hitting on other men full time with the supposed acceptance of women. It's all about the validation of women, the hatred of men, and the worship of the female leads to dysfunction. And those are the things that men have to drop. Because you know something, Ceicocat hasn't become a better person by transitioning into the female form and then joining a male-hating group. Has she or he? This is the kind of person you want to avoid becoming, right? It's not just accepting that you're male. It's accepting that you're a male that's on the bottom of the pile. And then saying, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? How do I live my life the best that I can as a person? Right? You don't want to be this person. This is the crux of this video. Thank you.